Determining the value of immovable property. Land is valuable since it is of benefit to its possessors. It comprises a scarce resource that can be used to contribute to the creation of wealth and value. When considering the physical characteristics of a property, it is necessary to have due regard to the size, shape, gradient, topography, soil quality, and vegetation of the property. The presence of water resources and/or raw materials on the property also affects its value, as it will its accessibility and the suitability of any buildings or structures constructed for the envisaged use of the property. In valuing a property, regard must be taken of environmental factors such as the availability of infrastructure, such as roads, electricity, railway lines, airports, sewage and stormwater drains, IT connectivity and telephone lines, the location of auxiliary properties and other amenities that have a direct and positive benefit for the property itself, such as markets, suppliers of materials and services, community services, shops and malls, schools, religious centers, hospitals, fire brigades, police, and the local authority. In valuing a property, regard must be taken to environmental factors such as the location of properties and other factors having undesirable and/or negative effect on the value of the property, such as known as crime hotspots, bottle stores, abattoirs, open areas that could attract loiterers, and vibrant red light districts, noise, industrial pollution, and the location of similar properties that could compete in the market with the property in question. Limited real rights in property. The use of the property may be subject to conditions and restrictions imposed by national legislation, provincial ordinances, local authority bylaws and zonings, as well as restrictive conditions of title, which could include praedial servitudes, such as a right of way, or the construction and maintenance of pipelines or power lines over the property, or personal servitudes in favor of adjoining property owners, and restrictions on using the property to undertake certain activities such as commercial trading or brick making. Owners of adjacent properties have the common law right to peaceful use and enjoyment of their properties, implying that the property may be used in such a way detrimental to the rights of neighbors by, for instance, creating undue noise and pollution or erecting structures that block stormwater drainage. The uniqueness of the property. These characteristics and attributes make each individual property unique and also contribute to the complexity of accurately assessing and assigning a value to a specific property. Valuing a property, moreover, requires that comparisons be made and market investigations be undertaken. The property market is volatile, dynamic, and continually changing. Persons seeking accurately to value a property must ensure that they are aware of property-related trends and developments. Spend time and effort in considering and analyzing various factors that affect the value of particular types of property, and understand prevailing market forces and economic conditions, as well as possible future trends and outlooks. The general environment of a property. An important aspect of the general property environment is that of a population trends. Evidence of population trends will impact more significantly on business and/or income producing as opposed to residential properties. A long-term view must be had of population trends. If the trends seems to be increasing population in a particular geographical area, it should be tested to establish whether it is only a temporary phenomenon or it will likely to persist. The supply and demand for business or income-producing properties must be carefully evaluated. Does say supply exceed demand, since in such case, and in the absence of any positive indications of ongoing population increases, is it likely that significant value will attach to business or any other properties in that area? An important aspect of the general property environment is that of population trends. Evidence of population trends will impact more significantly on business and/or income producing as opposed to residential properties. A long-term view must be had of population trends. If the trend seems to be an increasing population in a particular geographical area, it should be tested to establish whether it is only a temporary phenomenon or it will likely persist. The supply and demand for business or income-producing properties must be carefully evaluated. Does say supply exceed demand? Since in such case, and in the absence of any popularity or otherwise of the immediate property environment must be assessed. It would be futile, for instance, for an investor to purchase a property in an undeveloped area having low population growth and minimal development potential. If a particular area does warrant, say, a business center, it would be prudent for the investor to purchase a business property as soon as possible while the value of the land is still low, since the market value of the property is likely to increase rapidly when the area starts to develop. The population density and income status of the inhabitants of an area are important in their needs and buying power and patterns. A needs survey is usually necessary to determine the practicality of any proposed property purchases for development purposes. The possibility of the rezoning of, say, residentially zoned properties to industrial, business, or some other use could also impact the population density of the area. Maybe new roads are envisaged, or there are other planning interventions in the pipeline that would change the nature and character of the area. Town planning schemes are developed and implemented by local authorities to regulate the protection of public health, safety, welfare, convenience, and in order in a coordinated and harmonious manner. They are designed to advance the general welfare of individual communities and to maintain and regulate local environments. Town planning schemes generally comprise a scheme map indicating the uses to which the land may be applied, as well as the scheme's clauses containing general information regarding the scheme. The rezoning of properties. The rezoning of properties. Properties are zoned in accordance with the provisions of applicable town planning scheme. The following aspects merit careful investigation: the primary and secondary uses of the property, as well as the floor space, ratios, cover, height, and parking requirements, the cost and probability of success in applying to rezone a property to increase the return on investment, any density restrictions which may determine the subdivision potential of the property. Building restriction areas. Building restriction areas or building lines indicate how far a building must be set back from the street and/or building boundaries. Application can be made to the local authority to relax building line restrictions if they were imposed by the provisions of a town planning scheme. Such an application is not possible. However, if the building restrictions are created by a condition contained in the title deed of the property, the development of a property is facilitated where the shape of the stand allows a building to be easily planned and erected on that stand. The length of the street footage is important, as the success of a retail enterprise often depends on its exposure to bypassers. Account must also be had of the hope of the stand from a frontage and depth point of view. Corner stands generally offer a significant advantage and will have an increased value due to their longer frontages. As far as the size of the stand is concerned, a larger stand is likely to have a higher unit value than a smaller one. It may, however, happen that the front to depth ratio of a smaller stand is better than that of a larger stand, in which case the unit value of the smaller stand might be higher than that of the larger one. Improvements to the property. When valuing a property, the improvements to the property are important. The condition of the building. Has there been any physical deterioration or functional aging of the building? And what are the estimated repair costs? The development potential of the stand. Is the full extent of the floor space ratio and/or cover and/or height being effectively used? And if not, what are the possibilities of enlarging the building so that it may be used to its maximum potential? Air conditioning. Is there a functional air conditioning system? And if so, is it a central system, or is it made up of separate units? Parking. Is there adequate parking available? Electrical installations. What is the condition of electrical installations? Is any remedial action necessary? Lifts. Are there sufficient lifts to cater for the size and capacity of the building? And what is the working conditions of those lifts? Finish. What is the nature of the finish, both exterior and interior? And what are the present and future maintenance requirements? Rentals. Are there any existing lease agreements and are stipulated rentals and rental escalations market related? I'll start again. Rentals. Are there any existing lease agreements and are stipulated rentals and rental escalations market related? Economic and political conditions. Prevailing market, financial and economic conditions, as well as current rates and the availability of mortgage finance are important considerations. The political climate is also relevant, since if the political climate is optimistic and positive, the value of the properties is likely to increase, while if an air of pessimism and despondency pervades the political environment, the value of the property will probably also suffer commensurately. Inspecting the land. When inspecting a site and a property inspection, estate agents must have regard to the land and the buildings on the land. They should ascertain entirely the extent of the stand, meaning the size, the location of the stand with reference to its boundaries, the zoning of the stand, possible environmental conditions pertaining to the stand, whether any nuisance is caused by or to the stand due to environmental pollution. When undertaking a site and property inspection, estate agents must have regard to the land and the buildings on the land. They should ascertain entirely any servitudes or any other restrictions, conditions of title, the character and classification of the locality, such as whether residential, commercial, and industrial development and development potential of surrounding areas. Conducting a physical inspection of the building. Conducting a physical inspection of the buildings. When considering the buildings on the land, it is necessary to ensure that the buildings and or other improvements were duly authorized. Obtain detailed specifications regarding the buildings and other improvements. Investigate the condition of the building. Check all maintenance factors in respect of the building. Determine the purpose for which the building is being used. When considering the buildings on the land, it is necessary to ascertain whether the building is owner-occupied, tenanted, or vacant. If tenanted, obtain full details of the current tenants, while if vacant, ascertain the reasons for the vacancy and check on available services, including water supply, drainage, electricity, and so forth. An acceptable property inspection generally includes the following: careful observation to identify, note, and record all latent and patent defects in the property, and investigation into the plumbing, heating, air conditioning, electrical, and appliance systems, and examining of the roof, foundations, basements, exterior and interior walls and doors and windows, checking the exterior roofing and wall coverage for all type of quality and condition. An acceptable property inspection includes the following: ascertaining the condition of the roof, and if feasible, when the roof was last repaired or replaced, noting indications of any building bulging, sagging, cracks, watermarks, and other potential signs of potential structural impairment, and recording less serious evidence of deteriorating, such as blistering or peel painting. Using experts in the field. Depending on the nature of the property being inspected, it is not unusual for estate agents, when conducting a property inspection, to use the knowledge, experience, and expertise of outside experts appropriate to the type of property that is being considered. Estate agents could conceivably consult with, for instance, architects, property consultants, town planners, quantity surveyors, consulting engineers, consulting geologists, mechanical and electrical experts, hydraulic and fire experts, as well as perhaps more experienced colleagues in the sector. Inspection tools and techniques used to value a property. Useful inspection tools, in addition to the ingenuity of the estate agent, might include a camera, clipboard, electronic and ultrasound measuring devices, an engineering rule, an architect scale, screwdriver, compass, torch, dictation device, graph paper, and binoculars. If the inspection tends making reference to, say, the topography of the area, the stand frontage and paving, then appropriate maps and charts will clearly also be needed. Undertaking feasibility studies. The essential components of a feasibility study include a comprehensive analysis of the site in terms of the location, accessibility, visibility, exposure, topography, building layout, and a design and suitability for use. A demographic analysis of the population within the area, information relating to age, gender, disposable income, and spending patterns, the growth characteristics of the area, an analysis of planned and existing projects in terms of the size, quality, asking or selling prices or rent, distinctive features, and major tenants. An analysis of planned and existing projects in terms of size, quality, asking or selling prices or rents, distinctive features, and major tenants. An analysis of recent trends in the area, a comprehensive financial analysis. The components of a feasibility study include further scoping and developing the work, collecting and analyzing relevant data, such as rent, comparables, properties under construction, proposed properties, market occupancy and absorption, sub-market occupancy and absorption, and data for economic drivers, and developing opinions of market rentals, stabilized occupancy, and the likely time required for the project to reach stabilized occupancy. A market feasibility study is used to determine the standing of established real estate markets and the ability of those markets to support particular proposed developments. The major objectives of such market feasibility study is to determine the marketability of proposed property projects. Market feasibility studies seek to determine market conditions and projected responses to the proposed property projects. Determining the market conditions. While various methodologies are used to determine prevailing market conditions, the first step is always to define the extent of the market area. While various methodologies are used to determine prevailing market conditions, the first step in the process is always to define the extent of the market area. While various methodologies are used to determine prevailing market conditions, the first step in the process is always to define the extent of the market area. This can be done, for instance, using radial analysis. A series of concentric circles are drawn around the proposed development at distances of 3, 5, and 10 kilometers so that the areas within those circles can be analyzed. Provincial, local, or city boundaries as the boundaries of the market, and the effective market area, which is the smallest geographical area from which the proposed project can be expected to generate between 60 to 70% of its support, through a comprehensive analysis of factors such as geography, demographics, transportation patterns, and area perceptions. When market conditions have been determined, the way in which the market is likely to respond to proposed projects can be investigated. This investigation necessitates a combination of the available market data with experience gained through the study of a number of different markets. Thank you. This brings me to the conclusion of the presentation. Please remember to answer 10 multiple choice questions to obtain your 5 verifiable CPD points for this session.